let's talk about Reginald. Reginald is the current leader of the guild archetype, at least within the lore. He is the one who runs the guild and pools all the jobs and gets everybody into place and knows exactly what to do, when, and how. Reginald is probably one of our most well-ideaed out characters in that we know what he wants and the way he works. So hopefully we've moved that into his kit, because he is quite different than most characters. When we'll see that when we get into his kit. So first we're going to go into his backstory and his lore, and then we'll go into his kit, how he fits into the guild archetype, and how some changes I think could really help him in some areas. But overall, he's quite strong. So let's get into Reginald's backstory. So who is Reginald? Well, Reginald is a rat. He's not of nobility. He's not a warrior of any kind. He's just a simple businessman. And unlike the past guild leaders, he rejects the secrecy of being sort of kept in the underground, kind of in the bottom dwellings of the world. He wants the guild to be seen and respected and feared. He was chosen by the Beagle, and the Beagle is kind of the previous guild master or the guild leader at this point in time, who had chosen Reginald of all people to be the next guild leader, to lead the guild, quote unquote, which doesn't have a name yet, into its future. A lot of people in the guild, most doubted the Beagle's decision, because Reginald doesn't see, and we'll get to it in a sec, doesn't see really eye to eye with all of the old traditions of the guilds, the way that it was brought up, the way that it's meant to be run, the way that it feels like this kind of misfit hodgepodge family. But the Beagle saw ambition in him, and that ambition is something that Reginald has tenfold over, and it's specifically for the guild. Reginald transformed the guild from just a secret network of spies, ne'er-do-wells, and others into a powerhouse of like wealth and influence, and that's what he wanted to do. This was his way to see the guild rise in power. He didn't want the guild to hide in the shadows any longer. The guild should own land, be a respected power within the world. It shouldn't be this not talked about underground kind of out of sight, out of mind thing that everybody just deals with. And he sees that gold, money, currency as the ultimate tool of control. His saying that we have is show them gold and the rest falls into place. I think it's a work in progress, but that's his grand idea. Is he can gain power through wealth, through having all this money and resources. Everything else will come with it. So to do this, he expanded the black market connections that the guild already had. He took on bigger, riskier jobs and made, at this point, the guild impossible to ignore to the layman or the nobleman, or even the Cat Empire, which once again is the ruling faction in this region of Grit. He was ruthless, he was patient, he was manipulative, and he's playing the long game. He's relatively young, he's not an old soul. He's an up-and-coming businessman that has basically just had his breakthrough with being the leader of this guild. He breaks the rules, he ruins lives, he burns bridges. As long as it means the guild has a gateway to power, Reginald will do it. And through this ruthlessness, Reginald basically got everybody in the guild to follow him, to understand where he's coming from, to understand where he's going. He wants what everybody else wants, and that's this family, this guild, to be something greater and bigger than it is. Maybe others don't want to be seen in the spotlight, but Reginald knows that they can have a better life up in the surface, rather than living in these kind of underground sanctioned areas that they have. A lot of people see him as a visionary, as like a necessary evil at certain points, but nobody ever doubts him. He cares only about the guild, the loyalty, and even with a lack of tradition, he is so far gone from what the guild was at a certain point when it was created, to this is a completely new version of one that is essentially a world power, and that's what Reginald is making. As long as the guild rises to the top, Nothing else matters. He doesn't care if he's a villain. He doesn't care if he's hated. He's not here really to be a hero of any kind. He's here to make moves and gain power through wealth. What does that mean? Well, Reginald's got a lot of ambition, and we really wanted to make it so his introduction to this world of Grit kind of had to do with his introduction to the guild. So there's not a lot of backstory here yet, because we think his focus right now is more on the now and here, and that's because that's what Reginald does. What he comes from and where he came from really doesn't matter to him, so we didn't really decide to give him that much of a backstory. Where did he come from? Doesn't matter. Where is he going? Now that he would want to talk about. So that's why Reginald is kind of just a visionary. he's a rat businessman, con artist, visionary, and he gets things done. So let's see how he does that. Let's go into his kit, and let's start with his hero ability. Reginald. So he's an experienced hero, and these are usually more complicated, more complex than most other classes. So let's buckle in. It's 2 attack, 4 hand size, very normal for experienced characters. Reginald has 3 different abilities. The first one being he cannot make basic attacks. So immediately he's not an attacker, right? He's not a warrior. That's not his thing. However, once per turn, after you hide a card, heroes in your party get +2 attack this turn. And so this is a little bizarre. The rules right now state that even if he's in the inactive slot, so you have somebody else in the active slot, this ability won't trigger. So it only triggers when he is in play and he's active, and he can't make basic attacks. So we'll see what this does later on in his kit. Then his third ability is after you play a guild card, draw 1 card. And so we're going to see on all the cards, and you might have already seen it in some of the other hero spotlights if you watch those for the guild characters, each card has this guild archetype, or this guild trait is what it's called. It doesn't really do anything, but some cards, like Reginald and some other cards, care about what traits of cards there are. Melody cares about songs, Besh from the bad guys cares about curses, Amber from the good guys cares about traps, and so that's what those traits are for, so we can reference those for specific cards. So whenever Reginald plays a guild card, he draws a card, so keep that in mind. And he can't make basic attacks. Let's take a look at his Armory card. This is an accessory, costs 1, and it says affinity, exhaust, if you have affinity, so any experienced hero equipped with this, hide 1 card, your opponent chooses 1. Your next attack this turn deals +2 damage, or the next card you play this turn has -2 cost. I think that these could be a little bit better. I think that there's a lot more potential for this card, but the idea gets across. The idea is that you get to hide a card and make your opponent choose something horrible. Reginald is a schemer, and if you start your turn and say, hey, okay, cool, I'm gonna hide a card, activate this, does my next card cost 2 less, or does my next attack deal 2 more damage? And that is scary. That is scary. Either way, this is a really, really big problem, and we'll see why in a second. So hiding the card triggers his ability and allows you to give all your heroes +2 attack. Then each of these abilities is just strong. So it's a hide mechanic, and it's a buff. So let's see what we can do with that in some of these other cards. Stashed is his defensive card. It costs 0, and it says reveal 1 card from your hand. Prevent damage equal to that card's cost, then hide that card. So this actually basically does have a cost of 1, but you hide it instead. And the affinity says draw 1 card. So if you play this while Reginald, you get to play this for 0, reveal a card from your hand, hide that card. Then this says draw a card, and then Reginald's ability activates. Because this is a guild traded card, you get to draw another card. So you essentially can play this for basically free out of your hand. So this card is phenomenal. It gets you to hide a card, it gets you to draw cards. It basically goes net neutral with Reginald, and you can get a card out of your hand or set up for something else. So really, really strong card. Next we have Form a Plan. It's a 0 cost skill. Reveal the top 3 cards of your deck, add 1 card to your hand, hide 1 card, and then discard the rest. So once again, here we go. Form a plan, look at 3, then you get to put 1 into your hand, get rid of 1, and then hide 1. So there's a lot of setup here that you can do for other cards. And then, after you put this into your tenacity, Reginald's ability triggers and you draw a card. So you essentially go positive on this. The only thing this does, it makes your tenacity total really bad, but maybe not super bad. Yeah, formal plan is really good. It's probably too good, but that's fine for now, I think. Reginald, remember, Reginald can't make basic attack, and I know that you can play these cards in other with other characters, but remember, their strength relies in their ability to be played with Reginald. They're fine cards as is. They're fine cards as is, but with Reginald, they're superb, and that's the point. 2-cost tag team skill, and this should probably actually be an attack, so it shouldn't say skill, it should say attack. It's got a cost modifier, which says hide each card discarded to pay for this card. So more hiding effects, basically, that allow you to set up cards. Choose an ally inactive hero in your party. So that means one of your heroes that is not in play. Deal 2 damage. This attack deals additional damage equal to the chosen hero's attack. So that goes immediately with Reginald's ability. If you're able to hide a card, which you can with this, then you can buff it with Reginald's ability, then use Tag Team to deal 2 damage, plus whatever their attack is, plus the 2 from his buff. So you're dealing 4 plus their attack. So kind of nutty. I think it's a cool effect, but I do think that making it hide the cards right here is a bit overkill because you have other ways to hide cards. I think that we should probably take away this effect, nerfing the card in total, but still keeping the idea of the card that Reginald is not the one attacking. He's telling somebody else to attack. And yeah, he does it in some kind of wonky ways. So that card I think could be a little bit worse, but it makes it more cohesive in the kit. Rally. This is a 4-cost attack. So this card costs a ton. I think this card and maybe Victor's Blood Paw enhancement are tied for the highest cost cards in the game. I think they're the only ones that cost 4 right now. So this better be game changing, basically. An attack. This says affinity. So only when you play with an experienced hero. Gets -1 cost, so it costs 3. Says hide each card discarded while paying for this card. So this is the same effect as Tag Team. Once again, I guess we'll think about this, but maybe we don't totally like that. Then it says choose an allied inactive hero. Deal damage to an enemy equal to that hero's hand size. Whew, yeah, this card is quite strong, quite powerful. Why does this have -1 cost? And that's because Reginald only has a hand size of 4. So if this costed 4, it would be 2. He couldn't play. He literally couldn't play it unless he somehow drew a card, went to 5, which is possible with Form of Plan, but is very specific. So the idea is that he can play this card and then other characters can play this card, but it costs 4 for them, and that's a lot. So I think that hiding each card discarded this way while paying for this card could probably change. I also think that this hand size doesn't totally work with his ability. So I think that this card could maintain its idea, so a very high cost, high damage attack, but in some way should probably deal with like the attack power or something of your other characters, so to work with his ability more. So yeah, I think that's a little bit of an interesting kind of miss on this card. So I think that Reginald could be better, and I think this is one of the cards that we need to take a look at when we rebalance him, because it's a great idea, but it doesn't work anywhere else in the kit. It's pretty much on its own. And finally, we have his neutral card, which remember, neutral cards can be played by any hero in any deck, is Leadership. 1 cost enhancement that says when you rest a hero, if you did not make a basic attack this turn, place the bottom card of your deck into your tenacity. This card is nuts. So this card is our payoff for the rest of these cards that hide cards. Stash, Form, Tag Team right now, Rally right now. And the idea is that you can set up these big cards on the bottom of your deck through hide effects, and then you can have Leadership with Reginald say, okay, I'm going to rest Reginald now, I'm done, I'm going to come back, you do a new hero, and then I'm going to take that bottom card that I set up and I'm going to put it into my tenacity, and it's just horrifyingly large. So even though Rally isn't perfectly a great card, I think that it works because it's meant to be a setup card. It's meant to be a card that is just kind of put into play and cheated into play using these hide effects. Or like Stashed is meant to be a card that has a high cost that basically sits in your hand until you need to hide it for some effect or something like that. So Rally is better than it looks, but I think that its effect could be worse and work with this more. So it's all here. Reginald's kind of got it all. He can buff characters to make them attack. And then I'm sure if he had one more way to do that, potentially through rally, I think that that would be a good way to do it. The problem is making these two unique from each other and utilizing your inactive heroes in kind of a bizarre way. So I think that Rally works as a high cost card in the guild kit because of its high cost, but its effects I think needs some help. And this is all to say that I love Reginald's kit, and I think he can be slotted into any deck with other guild heroes and excel wildly due to his ability to draw tons of cards, set up really well with all of his cards, and just plan out really good turns and plan the bottom of your deck. So yes. All that to say, I like Reginald. I think he's great. I love his story. I love who he is as a character, and I love his kit. And I think he can be better and more fun, although be it potentially a little complex for a newer player looking for a more streamlined time, because he is kind of a go kind of a comboer. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you for letting me gush about Reginald and the guild and this card game that I love so much called Grit. Wherever you are in the world, have a great day, night, morning, weekend, work day, vacation day, trip, whatever it is, wherever you are. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in whatever the next video is. So, see ya.